With that said, again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks so much for joining us today for October edition of Women's Empowerment Principle 101 webinar. My name is Miwa Park, and I'm the WEPs coordinator at Women's Empowerment Principle, or WEPs in short, Secretariat at UN Women HQ, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. So before I start, I just wanted to let you know that we have Chinese and Japanese interpretation available today. So please click on the globe button at the bottom and you'll be able to access that function. So next slide, please. Thank you. So quickly, I'll firstly introduce what's going to happen today. So I'll be introducing the team that's behind the WEPs, and we'll hear opening remarks from Anna Feld, Global Head of Web Secretariat at UN Women. After her remarks, you will learn about the 7 principles of the WEPs journey, WEPs tools, and how to become a signatory, and etc. After this backdrop, we will hear from 4 signatories to share their WEPs journey. We have one joining from Turkey, Colombia, United States, and Pakistan, very diverse, with Q&A session at the end. Then Cynthia from UN Global Compact will close today's session with closing remarks, so please stay tuned until the very end. So before I go ahead and introduce my colleagues, I'd like to let you know that we'd love to hear from you. I know that you are already using the chat function, but throughout the webinar, please feel free to write your questions to the panelists or the speakers in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. If you're writing this in the chat function, it'll be very difficult for us to pick that up, so please use this function. And also, if you like to communicate with other participants, please use a chat function as you're doing right now. And your questions will be answered during the Q&A session or throughout the chat, Q&A function throughout the webinar. Also, please note that this webinar is being recorded and later will be uploaded to weps.org website and will be publicly available. Next slide, please. So let me introduce you the Team WEPs team that's behind the WEPs work. So the Women's Empowerment Principle Secretariat sits under UN Women, and it's being led and managed by UN Women. We have Anna Feld as Global Head of the Secretariat and myself. And we have our newest team member, Nicole Villagomez, at the Secretariat. From UN Global Compact, we have Cynthia Mufa, Head of Human Rights and Gender Team, and Lina Al-Qadumi, Manager of Gender Equality and Sustainability. Next slide, please. To get us started, I'd like to invite Anna to deliver her opening remarks. So Anna, over to you, and you can hand the floor to Lina afterwards. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Miwa. And good morning, everyone. It's an exciting way to start the day to have this introduction to the Women's Empowerment Principles. You are here today as an employee either of a current WEP signatory company because you want to learn more about the Women's Empowerment Principles, or you're for a company that haven't yet signed on to these principles and you are joining because you want to know what it means to become a signatory. So many of you are here today to join forces with the challenge of a lifetime, achieving gender equality by 2030, when all the estimates that we hear indicates that it will be 300 years. So we have an agenda in front of us of 7 years that everybody said it will take 300. So that means that we need all to come together and join forces and push this agenda and accelerate it and go faster. So I thank you all for joining us with this challenge. Some of you are asking, why should we be joining? So I asked ChatGPT this question, and I got 8 reasons for why you should. And I won't go into them in detail, but basically they talked about the alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, the benefits to your company in many different ways, compliance with regulations, and lower risk for your company. But what the ChatGPT did not mention in those 8 points was that our support to our Women's Empowerment Principle signatories in forms of tools and resources, a network of like-minded business leaders, showcasing of success stories and good practices, and the gatherings and at the international, regional, country levels. So you will learn a little bit about this today. We only have 1 hour, but we have a packed agenda. And you will also learn how to join. Not only why, but how. You will also hear from 4 amazing business leaders from 4 of our WEP signatories that have signed, and they will share why they joined and what they've done after they joined. And finally, we will hear what WEPs is all about. So I will hand it over now to Lina. We have a packed agenda. And Lina, tell us a little bit more about what the Women's Empowerment Principles are about. And welcome, everyone. And thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Anna. Really appreciate it. So I have the lovely duty and honor to explain what the Women's Empowerment Principles are. So it's a set of 7 principles that walks you through how a company can really advance gender equality and women's empowerment across the workplace, the marketplace, and the community. If I can ask to move to the next slide. Next one. Thank you. So we're going to walk through the 7 principles today. So the first principle is to establish a high-level corporate leadership for gender equality. And the reason this is the first principle is that evidence shows that corporate leadership is an integral part to making gender equality and women's empowerment a top strategic priority for companies. So one of the first asks is, of course, to get the CEO to sign a statement of support and to publish that. So just to signal from the very top that this is important to the company. Following that, we have suggested actions that I'll share for each of the principles. For example, to establish a company-wide goals and targets for gender equality and women's empowerment, and to measure progress through clear performance indicators, make managers at all levels accountable for results against these goals and targets through their performance reviews, engage and consult internal and external stakeholders in the development of company policies, programs, and implementation plans, ensure that existing policies are gender sensitive, identifying factors that impact women and men differently, and that corporate culture advances equality and inclusion. And then, of course, to review the requirements for board membership and other governance bodies and committees to remove any discrimination or potential bias there may have against women. So principle 2 is to treat all women and men fairly at work, respect and support human rights, and non-discrimination. It also translates to better talent acquisition, higher employee retention and satisfaction, increased productivity, and better decision-making. So some of the suggested actions for principle 2 would be equal pay, including benefits and bonuses for equal work of equal value, equal pay for work of equal value, and ensure a minimum living wage for all women and men employees, foster an inclusive workplace culture, and remove gender bias discrimination from all policies and practices, implement gender-sensitive recruitment and retention practices, and to proactively recruit and appoint women to managerial and executive positions and to corporate boards of directors. And then offer flexible work arrangements, leave, and re-entry opportunities. There are plenty more under this principle in particular, so I'll move on to principle 3. Employers play a key role in preserving and promoting the physical and emotional health, safety, and well-being of their women and men employees. So some of the suggested actions here would be to establish internal policies and procedures preventing all forms of violence and sexual harassment at work, ensure all employees equal access to health insurance, including part-time workers, and to support services for survivors of violence and harassment, respect women and men workers' rights and time off for medical care and for counseling for themselves and also for their dependents, and to provide safe working conditions and protection from exposure to hazardous material. Safety and security issues are not just limited to the workplace as well. We also ask companies to consider, the journey that employees take to travel from home to work and vice versa, making sure that security staff and managers also recognize signs of violence against women, human trafficking, labor, and sexual exploitation. Principle 4 is on training for all employees about how the company advances gender equality and how that can align to everybody's shared values and help ensure compliance with company policies and practices. Training, it's a super important. We cannot undervalue this at all. We need to keep advancing professional development, and that includes, how it's a key lever to get more women into leadership roles. So some of the suggestions could be requiring business partners and contractors and suppliers to adopt the WEPs. And this goes into principle 5. If we can move into principle 5, yes. So implementing enterprise development, supply chain, and marketing practices that empower women. And then negative and diminished conceptions of women and girls are the greatest barriers for gender equality. So gender sensitive practices must expand across the supply chain. So some of this would be also along the training lines, working with your existing suppliers to adopt the WEPs, but also establishing a supplier diversity program to make sure that women-owned businesses are included in your supply chain. Supporting gender-sensitive solutions to women's barriers to accessing financial products and services to make sure that where possible, your company can support or enable women-owned businesses to access finance to be able to scale their business operations. And then ensure that company products, services, and facilities are not used for human trafficking or labor or sexual exploitation, for example. And then principle 6 is on promoting equality through community initiatives and advocacy. So companies are increasingly investing in community development programs to make valuable, effective, and responsible contributions to gender equality and women's empowerment. Some of the suggestions here include leading by example by showcasing concrete actions to advance gender equality and women's empowerment within your workplace, as an example to the general business community, but also to leverage influence not only alone, but also in a partnership to advance gender equality and to collaborate with business partners, suppliers, and community leaders to really drive results. It's important to work with community stakeholders and officials to eliminate discrimination and exploitation, to open opportunities for women and girls, and in order to build that talent pipeline, and to promote and recognize women's leadership and contributions to their communities, and to ensure their active participation in community consultation. Philanthropy and grants and CSR budgets could and should support community initiatives that apply a gender lens to their solutions as well. So the last principle is on measuring and publicly reporting progress to achieve gender equality. We don't know what we don't measure. If we truly value this, we really encourage companies to report and measure, because transparency and accountability, it's not just required for companies to uphold their commitments to gender equality in the workplace, marketplace, and community. It just, again, it means good business. You're held accountable to your stakeholder community, including your employees, your shareholders, and your customers. So some suggested actions to take is we offer the WEPs gender gap analysis tool, and that is very helpful to establish a baseline for the WEPs implementation. The WEPs gender gap analysis tool, it's free, it's anonymous, it's 18 questions, and you receive a full report on where your company stands on the 7 principles, and companies find this really helpful. Following that, we recommend developing incentives and accountability mechanisms to accelerate WEPs implementation, collect, analyze, and use gender statistics and sex disaggregated data and benchmarks to measure and report results at all levels. report annually on progress in the implementation of the WEPs principles, which my colleague Miwa will share more about shortly. And importantly, to share lessons learned and good practices in the implementation of the WEPs, and to publish them on the WEPs website, so that your peers in the business community and beyond can learn from best practices. I think that's always very helpful. And I will leave it at that and pass it on to you, Miwa.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lena, for going over the principles. So let me take it over from here now. Next slide, please. So as Lena mentioned, signing on to the WEPs means that you are agreeing to work on the 7 principles, and you're committing to make actions onto that 7 principles. And it's about we're embarking on a journey to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in your company's workplace, marketplace, and community. You're not choosing one to focus on, but rather in all of them. Thus, being a WEP signatory does not end at the signing stage. Once a company has signed up, gets approved, then a company is expected to make continuous efforts into activating, engaging WEP's commitment to tangible actions, practices, and then to sustain by collecting data and monitor progress, and finally report on their progress publicly. So this may sound like a challenging and difficult journey, and here that's why we are here to help you. Next page, please. So we offer over 200 tools, or maybe 300 tools, that can help with your WEPs journey. So we have various case studies, templates, thematic guides, learning modules, and more that could help you to be one step closer at your gender equality goal. And all these tools are available for free at weps.org website. And these are some of the examples that we offer from that website. And I will share some of the tools that could be used throughout the WEPs journey in the next slide. So first is Gender Action Plan module. So basically, this is a Gender Action Plan is a roadmap for the process of developing a gender equality and women's empowerment action plan. So in combination with the WEPs Gender Gap Analysis tool that Lena mentioned, this could help the companies to embed gender equality into its business model, and contains a SINS compilation of goals, indicators, and targets. So we provide a gender action plan module for those who are interested in creating one. This could be also used to verify to see if your current action plan is not missing anything. It's available for general public on our website. And next, we have a tool to support you on your workplace through gender responsive recruitment checklist. It's been developed to guide companies to practice gender responsive recruitment. So it could be used externally from recruiting firms, headhunters, and even internally in-house your HR department to assess your company's recruitment process if that's gender responsive. And this is only available for WEP signatory, but for free as well. Then moving on, the gender responsive procurement assessment tool could help companies to advance gender equality in their marketplace by providing opportunity to assess if the company's procurement policies and practices are gender responsive. So we've been encouraging our signatories to take it and take it even further, encourage their suppliers to take this to create an impact for the whole ecosystem that they operate. We recently completed a global pilot with a watch and jewelry industry, and if you're interested, you can check out the case study from that result on our website. It was our first attempt to do an industry-specific exercise on gender responsive procurement, and although it focuses on one industry, there's a lot to learn from other industry as well. Next slide, please. So moving on, how to join the WEPs. So joining the WEPs is a very simple process if you are eligible. So you are eligible if your company is legally registered and for-profit company. We do accept Chamber of Commerce, business or industry association as well, even if you're an NGO. But unfortunately, we are not accepting any other type of NGO or nonprofits at this point of time. Once you have confirmed and you're eligible, you can go to www.weps.org/join and then fill out the form and submit the form. The form is pretty self-explanatory. You need to provide the information requested in each section. There are a few things I like to emphasize for filling out the form. Next slide, please. So the first here, we are asking for some information on the CEO or the person with highest decision-making authority in your company. So by that, you need to fill out CEO statement of support. This needs to be signed with the date. The date is very important because this date will be the date that shows up on your profile page as the date your company had joined the webs. The CEO statement of support need to be signed again by the highest decision-making authority. That person is generally called the CEO, managing director, chairman, etc., depending on your company structure. Just keep in mind that the idea here is to get the buy-in from the highest decision maker of the company to commit to the webs publicly. Then moving on to the CEO quote, we'd like for you to answer how will your company contribute to gender equality? And tell us why this gender equality, women's empowerment agenda matters to you and your company, and maybe share how you have been doing or planning to work on. Lastly, CEO photo is also important. You only accept professional headshot. No logo picture is accepted. And next slide, please. And this is how the form looks like. If you want to learn more about eligibility criteria, steps of joining the webs, you can visit our website to see this form. And you'll find answer in our join page, you'll find answer to most of your question in the FAQ document. So next slide, please. So please visit our website. The tools that I mentioned are available there. So now I'm going to hand over the floor to Anna for the roundtable session of the web signatory. Thank you. And next slide, and over to you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a lot of questions in the chat and in the Q&A. And I think that the one of the most frequent questions are about where do we find all these tools? So I think the best way is to go to our website. Under resources, we have 300 different resources that you can access there, and feel free to share with your broader company and employees and your community. But now we are coming to a very exciting part of the session, where we will hear from our signatories and what they've been up to since they joined. We have 4 people that will be joining us. Catalina Peraffan from Colombia. She's the Director of Labor and Human Rights in Grupo Nutresa. We have Dr. Emrah Ozbay from Turkey, who's the Director of Internal Audit, Risk Management and Sustainability at Boyner Group. We have Joanne Gann from the US. She's the Head of Impact Investing and ESG Treasury at PayPal. And Mobeen Chughtai, I hope I did that correctly, from Pakistan, Senior Manager and Corporate Communication and CSR at the Soorty Enterprises. So this is very exciting. They have different sizes, different countries, different backgrounds, and different maturity of being a web signatory. But I will start to ask each of you, please, panelists, to just briefly introduce yourself and the company that you represent, so we know where you're coming from. And we can start with Catalina. Over to you, Catalina.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Catalina Peraffan. I am the Labor and Human Rights Director in my company, Grupo Nutresa. We are the leading processed food company in Colombia, and I'll say one of the most important players in the sector in Latin America. Incorporated in 1920, Grupo Nutresa currently has nearly 46,000 employees. We operate through business units like cold cuts, biscuits, chocolate, coffee, etc. The company has a direct presence in 18 countries on 5 continents with 47 production plants. And finally, I'll say our DEI commitment seeks to create an inclusive and equitable environment that values the diversity of all. And we want to impact all the stakeholders, including employees and their families, our communities, our suppliers. We have a challenge in this, but I'll talk about it a little bit more later.
Thank you so much. I'll ask the same question to Emrah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emrah Ozbay. I'm from Boyner Group, which is the one of biggest retail company in Turkey. and I am also board member of Global Compact Turkey. As a Boyner Group, we provide service in different retail formats, such as multi-brand stores, mono-brand stores, and e-commerce. One of group company called Altın Yıldız Golden Star operate different countries in Europe and Asia as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emrah. Joanne?
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Gann. I head up impact investing and ESG within PayPal's treasury. PayPal is a global fintech company. We're headquartered in San Jose, California. We operate in 200 markets around the world. We have close to 30,000 employees.
Great. And finally, Mobeen.
Yeah. Good afternoon from Pakistan. My name is Mobeen Chughtai, and I'm so impressed you got it right on the first try. I represent Soorty Enterprises. We're one of the largest denim manufacturers and exporters to the EU and US territories. For scale, I'll tell you that every 22nd jean sold in the EU today is either made with Soorty fabrics or made by Soorty Enterprises as a final product. We employ about 30,000 people across 7 different countries, and we're very happy to be partners with the UN Women Pakistan and by extension the UN Women Grupo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mobeen. So I have now 3 questions for each of you that I think our audience would be very interested to hear from you. 1, what motivated your company to sign on to the Women's Empowerment Principles? 2nd, why is it important for you to be a web signatory? And 3, what value add have you experienced of being a web signatory? So we'll start with Mobeen this time, and then we'll go to Joanne afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So the reason that we signed on to the WEPs framework was because as a Pakistani organization that does textile work, textile historically in Pakistan and in the larger third world context is a very women-led and women-centered activity. But that was the case back in the 40s and 50s, not so much in the 70s and towards the 80s when involvement of women in textiles went down from 60 to 70%, which is a fairly healthy number, down to less than 10% because of different reasons. So now that the world is shifting towards inclusivity and towards women empowerment, and we as an organization that is exposed to that culture, we wanted to do this for ourselves because we also have experience working in Bangladesh where 95% of our working staff is women, not so much in Pakistan. So there was this contrast in our experience that led us towards coming to WEPs. But should I answer the other 2 questions as well? I mean, is that
yes, please. Yeah.
So I think it's very important to be a web signatory for somebody in Pakistan because really we don't have a government structure or a social structure that is conducive to women employment in general. It is very difficult for employers to even strategize on the subject without any external guidance on the matter. And the WEPs was very poignant in that regard for our experience. What value? I think we've, in the last 2.5 years, 3 years of this partnership, we've gone from being an organization that has in Pakistan about 18 to 20% representation on our factory floors of women to today, where that number has stretched to between 35 and 42%. That's a huge leap for us. And we aim to be at 50% by the end of the year, hopefully. I think WEPs has played a very important part in that. Thank you.
But congratulations for making so much progress and the fact that you're measuring. I think we heard Dina talk about that earlier. The measurement is key, and if you don't measure, you wouldn't have known that these numbers are increasing. So congrats on that. Joanne, if you could answer the same questions on what motivated you to sign the WEPs, the importance of being a web signatory, and what added value you've seen since you joined.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks.
PayPal, we're a global fintech company, and our mission is to make financial services and commerce more affordable, convenient, and secure for all so that everyone can join and thrive in the global economy. We know that women's economic empowerment and women's financial inclusion is essential to building prosperous and resilient communities across the world. And we also know that women make up the overwhelming majority of unbanked and underbanked adults in the world. And so as a global corporation working to create a more digital inclusive financial system, we believe that we have a responsibility to play in helping expand the role and participation of women in the financial system and the broader economy. So in 2021, we signed on to the WEPs. We think that they're very much in line with the values of what we're trying to create at PayPal. And we became a private sector lead for the Economic Justice and Rights Action Coalition for the Generation Equality Initiative. We've seen significant value in being a part of the WEPs signatory from the community of other practitioners and the networking opportunities available to the information sharing and learning from what other companies are doing, what the public sector is doing, and the frameworks that UN Women has. So we're really excited to be here and to share about our work.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And I think this is very important. That's something that we also drive and advocate for digital financial inclusion at UN Women, and encourage all of our signatories to pay their employees digitally to help women to get online and also access better to financial products and services. So this is a very important agenda, and thanks for the great work that you're doing there. Emrah, over to you.
Okay. Actually, the main motivation for us becoming the WEPs signatory was the guidance of the principles. We aimed for WEPs to contribute to the women empowerment by guiding us on issues such as equal representation, equal evaluation, equal recruitment, and equal wage and benefits between genders. By keeping women empowerment and gender equality at the center of its business, Boyner Group aims to lead both society and company in this area. As to second question, why it's important, in addition to the practice to be carried out within company, we believe in importance of the company stating its stance on issue as a signatory and making a commitment with its top level, like such as CEO commitment, because we think that it is very important that company take a public stance that will support the issue of women empowerment with commitment made by becoming a signatory. For the third question, Boyner Group became WEPs signatory in 2011. As of 2011, we have been measuring and reporting development gender equality with parameters that WEPs set to us. We improved ourselves with good practice example learned from stakeholders. For example, we have prepared a policy on domestic violence and created process that support our employee. On the other hand, by sharing our best practice like ethics committee implementation example with other company, we think we contributed to our stakeholders for their developed this area. I think it's okay.
Great. No, thank you so much. And thanks for having been a champion for such a long time, since 2011 to drive this agenda forward. And you raised a very important point on domestic violence.
Yes.
And I think that's an area where sometimes companies don't understand why they need to get involved in people's private business. But we know at the same time that domestic violence impact their absenteeism, the productivity, and many different areas. So it is in companies' best interest in supporting survivors of domestic violence. So thanks for bringing that up, for being a great champion. Moving along, I have two additional questions for all of you. One, what is the status of your company's gender equality journey? Where are you today? Some of you are more recent signatories, and Emrah, you've been there for 12 years now. So maybe you could tell a little bit about where you are on this journey, either qualitatively or quantitatively. And the second question is, how have the WEPs helped you advance gender equality? And if you could cover workplace, marketplace, and community, or either of those, that would be great. So we'll start with Mobeen again. Over to you.
Sure. So we became a WEP signatory back in 2021. This was right before the COVID crisis, and we didn't really know what we were getting into. But we did see the value of involving women. Of course, like I said, we have a production facility in Bangladesh that's almost exclusively women naturally. Organically, we didn't really apply any filter in this. It was just the way that the hiring was structured. And we saw that women are by and large much more manageable, much more disciplined. In certain aspects of work, the biology of the human being in that sense is very conducive to their work, because finishing is a process that we use in quality assurance, and visual acuity is one of the metrics. And what we found is that women have by large margins better visual acuity than men. So there's that. We started off with engaging with our community very directly, which is somewhat unprecedented in Pakistan. We reached out to people in Korangi, which is where we're located. It's a Korangi industrial area, about a population of 20 million people. 2 million people. And we staged street theater to allay any misconceptions about industrial work. And we targeted men rather than women, because they're the primary gatekeepers in this equation. And it was so successful that 25% of our hirings for the period of the project came directly from this this activity. But what we also found was that maybe not everything is a misconception. So maybe there was something that we had to do in-house as well. So we partnered with UN Women, and we instituted this gender sensitivity program throughout our factory units. And this had, in the context of COVID, a special emphasis on anti-harassment and anti-domestic violence, because it was spiking at that period in time. Like I said, over this 2.5-3 year period, we've gone from a very unhealthy percentage of women representation to a now somewhat acceptable level of representation, and we aim to go even beyond. So I think that there's a lot of value in this proposition and the way that the framework works. And of course, it's not perfect. Nothing is. We had to tweak a lot of things. I think there's a lot of feedback that can come from the third world to regulatory bodies or to NGOs as well. And we're happy to do that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. It did. And I think you're bringing up a very good point, that we are not seeking perfection. People are not perfect. We can't find a perfect situation, but we want to try the best that we can in the right direction. And I think that the most important is to consult with both men and women in this process, because we've seen that if we are sidelining the men, there might be backlash, and we've seen that in many areas. So thanks for sharing those points. Joanne, over to you.
Thank you. In 2021, PayPal made a $108 million commitment during the UN Generation Equality Forum, really focused on advancing financial inclusion and economic empowerment of women and girls, both through internal initiatives that were happening at the company, as well as external initiatives happening in the marketplace and communities. And that was at the same time that we joined the WEPs, and that really provided a framework for how we thought about our program. I won't go through the entire program with you, but let me touch on a few of the things that we're doing with it. Within the workplace, We are really focused on building a strong work culture where diversity is valued, where women employees are empowered, and we've achieved pay equity and overall compensation for women globally at PayPal. We're also committed to conducting an annual assessment to ensure that our policies and our benefits regarding pay equity, regarding paid leave, regarding caregiver support, and around workplace sexual harassment meet or exceed best practices in their markets. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about things that we're doing in the community. And one is the investments that we've committed and we've made. So we committed $100 million of PayPal's capital to invest in women-led or focused organizations that are advancing SDG 5 and advancing gender equality. Yesterday, actually, we announced our two first investments under this remit into two funds, SWEEF, a Southeast Asia-focused growth equity fund, which really looks at how it can empower women across the value chain. And the second fund was Quona, a fintech fund advancing financial inclusion for underserved communities, including women globally. So we're really excited about those investments and excited to continue that journey. And then lastly, I want to touch upon data, because we think that that's critical to really understanding where the problems are and how we can solve them. So we've partnered with Women's World Banking to explore how data science can be leveraged to fix imbalances to expand women's access to financial services. We're funding research with them around global lending processes to identify where algorithmic and unconscious bias in the lending process could be limiting women's financial inclusion.
Great, thanks, Joanne. And this is a very impressive investment and work that you're doing. Just to pick up on one point that you mentioned, annual assessment. I think this is key to not just start the journey with tracking, but also to kind of look back once a year. And I think that's a really, really good recommendation for everyone here. And finally, on this question, Catalina.
Thank you. I'll say for us, it's very important being a web signatory because it helps us reinforce our commitment, having an international standard as reference, because we have presence in different countries, so that helps a lot. We think it also sends a message to all of our stakeholders about the seriousness of our commitment. We have gatherings with unions, for instance, and they ask us, how is this journey going? So we have these stakeholders, the internal stakeholders, continually asking about that. Our commitment to gender equality became a policy in 2014, and we have monitored and adjusted our strategy. It has changed since then. And also I think it's been part of or is being taken into account when we design our business plan 2030. So it is important at the high level. We like to think this mindset is already in our organizational culture, but it's true that we have a long way to go because we have 35% of women and 65% of men within our employees, and I'll say less than 30% are women executives. So of course we have work to do, but nevertheless we try to implement different initiatives. For instance, regarding corporate leadership, we have ensured that our existing policies are gender sensitive. It is important that we identify different factors for women and men because we have different needs. We have also reviewed the requirements for boards memberships and other governance bodies. In terms of elimination of discrimination and women's health and well-being, we also have established an internal procedure preventing all forms of violence and sexual harassment. I know one of our colleagues said also that. Regarding the measures in terms of work-life balance and workplace parental flexibility, we have a series of measures that can ease the this flexibility for women. Especially, we have part-time work, flexi time. We have working from home, mobile working. We have also lactation rooms and increased breastfeeding time for our employees. We have also agreements with daycare centers, and we have established recently loans for fertility treatments that were asked last year. Also, we have conducted sexual harassment and conscious bias training for everyone. It is important that, of course, men are present in these gatherings, and we have strengthened roles outside traditional gender assignments. As for instance, we are training now more female trucks drivers and female lift trucks operators. And it has a great impact in our facilities. We also have women leadership programs where we want to strengthen the female representation in terms of number and also in terms of the actual participation and inclusion on boards. We have programs that aim to achieve these leadership roles through professional development. We have also an annual gathering with experts that help us to reduce female leadership biases. And we have a really great program regarding the development of territories and social inclusion for women. And its purpose is to strengthen the development of capacities and female empowerment and financial education in rural women that are also our suppliers.
Wow, that's an impressive list of a lot of different things that you're doing. And it just shows that the women's empowerment principles have so many different dimensions, and all of those that you talked about fit under the framework. But just to pick up one of the things that you mentioned about daycare centers, that is the support that would really help women to retain the women in the company after childbirth, and agreement with daycare centers or subsidies or full coverage or on-site daycare center do make a big difference in retaining women. So thanks for doing that. Emrah, I skipped you earlier, but you have your a few minutes now to answer the same question. You're muted. Thank you.
Let me just give answer briefly. I want to talk about our a company briefly. Since 2008, on March 8th, International Women's Days, we published and announced a campaign to bring issue of gender equality to the agenda in Turkey. We have been sharing our value and perspective on gender equality through this company. Apart from this, Boyner Group aims to be pioneer in many areas. For example, it became the first company in Turkey in retail sectors undertake compliance with the International Labour Organization C-119 Violence and Harassment Convention. While we undertake to support our employee in the issue of domestic violence with the project called We Are Together, in Turkish Biriz Birlikteyiz, we are developing a mechanism to support them, our employee, with our updated human resource policy. We evaluate our firm through the web evaluation form and see our maturity level and area that we can develop. We develop project based on the question in the web's form. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emrah. So we are coming to the last question for some recommendations. So we'll start with Catalina this time. If you could, what would be your top recommendation for companies that are sitting in the audience today for signing and joining the WEPs? What would be your kind of top recommendation? Catalina.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll say I have 5 top ones. First, I think it is very important to implement a gender-sensitive recruitment and retention practice, because that is the door, the entrance door. Also, it is important to analyze and use gender statistics and benchmark, like to ensure that the levels are being committed. I'll also encourage women to enter non-traditional job fields. I think that is important in our facilities. We try to do that. And fourth, I'll say establish supplier diversity program, the one that I just mentioned. It's really close to my heart. So I think that can help women to, I don't know, own or enter the business world. And finally, it is important to report the progress on the implementation on the WEPs, I think.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Catalina. Emrah, over to you. What is your top recommendation?
Actually, we strongly recommend companies to become WEPs signatories. As WEPs signatory, they can see their own level and provide better actions for development. For example, by filling out the WEPs form, they can see that the work they previously considered sufficient doesn't not fully meet the need, and they can make improvement in issues they have not evaluated before by touching different area of their work and organization. Actually, we experienced this journey in our company. Also, they can join joint working groups with other company and integrate their good practices into their own companies. We believe that benefiting from other companies' experience will enable new companies to progress faster. Thank you.
Great. We have Joanne.
Thanks. I would echo every other sentiments that I would strongly recommend becoming a WEP signatory. I think one of the top recommendations as you're thinking about how to implement these initiatives within your company is to think about how you can work across functions to really develop a holistic plan. At PayPal, we've worked cross-functionally across our human resources teams, our research and data teams, our finance teams, our social and innovation teams to really bake women's economic empowerment into many different functions of the organization. And I found that to be a really great approach.
Excellent. And finally, Mobeen.
Yeah, so sign on to the webs. If somebody from Pakistan is telling you to, I think you should. And B, apply your mind and soul to whatever you're building, because eventually that's what it boils down to. The framework will only give you a general broad idea of what is required. How you get there is completely on you. For example, I'll share one of the mistakes that we made. So we thought that daycare centers in Pakistan were a very big deal. And so what we did was we invested a lot of money into building daycare centers, very large world-class facilities for our workers, working women and their children. And today we have all of those world-class facilities completely empty because nobody's using them. And nobody's using them because we didn't apply our mind. We didn't see that Pakistan is not largely a nuclear family-focused society. It is still extremely family-centered. And what that results in is that women prefer leaving their children with their grandparents or with other family members at home rather than bringing them to office or bringing them to work. And that's why they were empty. So we learned from that, and every single project that we did from that point onwards was very carefully thought out in the context of who we are and where we are. So do that, and I think it will be a wonderful experience for society and for your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think you're raising a very important point. Consult. and consult with the women that you're building something for or doing something for, to do it as a co-creation and involve them. I think that's very important. These are very great. I think I got 10 key recommendations. We are writing a little article that we'll post on the website, and we'll list these recommendations as well. Very, very useful. And I think we're coming to the end of the session. So I will hand it over to Cynthia from UN Global Compact to give us the closing remarks. Over to you, Cynthia. And thanks everyone so much for your great insights.
Thank you, Anna. And yes, let me echo my thanks to all the panelists today for joining us, for sharing this information, their experiences, the learnings. And we're very, very lucky to have such a diverse group of panelists. And it just goes to show that it really doesn't matter which part of the world you're at. This agenda is critical, and it's something that we all should be paying attention to. But as Mobeen said, you address it within your own context. I just wanted to, I think why do we do these WEPs 101s? You've all mentioned the real importance of that sort of learning, that peer learning, which is critical. And this is such an important part of being part of the WEPs family. So whilst we say absolutely sign that WEPs agreement, get onto the framework, the work only just begins, in terms of figuring out how does that relate to your business. And at the heart of your business is people. It's the women, it's your employees. How does that relate to them in the marketplace, in the workplace, in the marketplace, and also in the community? So once again, thank you all so much. I think it's been very clear what the benefits are. And just to recount, a couple of the things said, it's really important to understand what you're working with. Know your baseline. Know your data is king. If we don't know where we are, we don't know where we need to go. So I really encourage everybody to sign up, but then start to figure out, where you are with everything. Reporting is also very important. You need to track all these things, whatever they are, whatever you've got or haven't got as yet. It's important to know that. And then this community is incredibly important. I think it's something that we need to promote more. It's not just joining the WEPs and doing what you're doing. It's also being part of what everyone else is doing and learning from that. So we're really, really grateful. We had over 200 people attend the webinar today, and I think that says it all. So we look forward to more of these. As Anna said, any questions you have, I think we've put all the email addresses there, and we look forward to continuing to share this journey with you. And thank you once again to all of those who attended today. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you all the participants and panelists for attending today's session. I hope you all have a great afternoon, evening, or day to everyone. Thank you, and see you at next 101. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.